Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Amy and I have Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. So I think the way that I'm going to do this video is to first talk to you about what Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome is, and then I will talk to you about what my experience has been having this condition. Now before we move on, I just want to make a quick disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I am just someone who has this condition, has done lots of research on it over the years, and I've spoken to lots of doctors about it. With that being said, if you are new here, hello, welcome. Don't forget to click that subscribe button because I am going to be making more videos about different chronic illnesses. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get started. So, very important thing to know about Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome is that there are 13 different types of EDS. These are rare, inherited conditions that affect the connective tissue in the body. Connective tissue does a lot in our bodies. It supports skin, tendons, ligaments, blood vessels, internal organs, and bones. Each of the different Ehlers-Danlos syndromes, each different type, affects people in a different way. The type that I have is called Hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, or HEDS, or Hypermobile EDS. So that's the one that I'm going to be talking about today, but if you want information on the other 12 types, I will leave a link in the description box below where you can find out lots more. So, as I said, the type that I have is called Hypermobile EDS. This is actually the most common type of EDS, and recent studies have found that it might be a little bit more common than we think. I think for a lot of people who have hypermobile EDS, that doesn't come as a surprise to them because a lot of people go years and years and years and years before they get a diagnosis. So, the symptoms of hypermobile EDS. Symptoms vary from person to person, the severity of each symptom varies from person to person, but these are kind of, in a nutshell, the most common symptoms associated with this condition. First of all, we have joint hypermobility. This means that joints can move and extend past the normal range. Sometimes people might refer to this as double jointed. You might know someone who can do a really cool party trick where they can move their shoulder in a way that really shouldn't happen, and that can be a sign of hypermobility. You can be hypermobile without having Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Next, we have loose, unstable joints. This means that joints are susceptible to dislocating very easily and quite often. People with hypermobile EDS may also experience something called subluxations, and this is kind of a partial dislocation, not dislocating the whole way, and it kind of comes out a bit and goes back in a bit, or they have to manipulate it to go back in. Next, we have joint pain and clicking joints. Now, the joint pain is one of the, I think, hardest things for a lot of people with hypermobile EDS to deal with, and often the main reason that they go to the doctor in the first place because they're having all of this pain and they want to know why it's happening. And also we have lots and lots of clicking, popping, and crunching joints. With all that comes fatigue. The body is working so hard to keep all of the joints together where they're supposed to be because they are so loose that can be very, very tiring on the body before you've done anything else in the day. And so fatigue is a common symptom with hypermobile EDS. As is skin that bruises easily. I bruise like a peach, which I guess is funny now that that's my name, but I have always bruised really, really easily, and if you just kind of poke me, I'll probably come up with a bruise. I get bruises all the time, not knowing where they came from. Hypermobile EDS can also cause digestive problems and bladder problems, dizziness and increased heart rate when standing up, and also problems with internal organs. Unlike many other forms of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, there is no definitive test to determine whether or not someone has hypermobile EDS. There's no blood test, there's no scan that can determine it, which means that people often have to wait a very long time before they get a diagnosis, because doctors have to rely on medical history, excluding other conditions, and also kind of physical medical exams. So, my experience living with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So I have always been hypermobile, but I didn't really know it. Looking back now, I can see that there were definitely signs. I could move my hips and my knees in ways that probably I shouldn't have been moving them, but it was comfortable to me, it was just normal to me. No one told me any different. But my joint problems and pain didn't really start affecting me a lot, that I was noticing that it was a problem, until I was about 17. And it kind of seemed to all happen at once. So I was out with my friends, we were going around some shops, and then we went to a restaurant, Nando's, it was Nando's. And when we were walking around the shops, I started to get a pain in my right knee, and it felt like growing pains. Now, I hadn't had growing pains in a very, very long time, and I thought that growing pains were normal, but apparently to the severity I used to get them, that's actually not that normal, and that was a sign that there was a problem. Anyway, so I was saying to my friends, well, this is really weird, I'm 17 and I'm getting like these growing pains in my knee. Didn't really think much of it, carried on walking around the shops with them, and the pain started to get worse. It started to spread down and up my leg and kind of cut off right where my hip started. And it felt like my leg was not part of my body anymore. It hurt so much that it just felt like I wanted to just take it off and then I would be fine. Me being me back then, I didn't really want to make much of a fuss. I didn't talk openly about my chronic illnesses at all back then, and obviously I didn't know I had EDS back then. So I carried on walking around. We got to where we were eating and I went up to order some food. At this point, the pain was so bad, I don't even know how I managed to walk from the table to the counter. I have no idea. I remember making my order and then all of a sudden, the person behind the counter was serving someone else. And I was like, hey, why is he serving someone else? I haven't got my food. Did I pay for my food? And then I realised I was looking at this person from the ground and I had passed out from the pain. I had fallen straight back from passing out. My head broke my fall. The queue barrier fell on my face and it was pretty horrific. I imagine for the people in the restaurant who saw it happen as well, that was really horrible for them. So I ended up with a really bad concussion, went to hospital, it was all very scary, and in the end, I left hospital without any answers. I actually had to go back a few days later because the concussion stuff was kind of not resolving and I just had to rest more, but the knee pain had kind of gone away and no one really knew why it was happening. So for years after that, I continued to get leg pain. I started to get it in my left leg as well. I continued to go to doctors. No one really knew what it was. I remember I went to my GP and explained the pain, and he said to me, pain, it comes and goes. There's not much you can do about it. And I think it was at that point that I decided that no more, no mas. I was not going to put up with this anymore. You'll see in other videos that I had had terrible experiences trying to get medical support for other conditions, and so at this point, at 17 or 18 years old, I just said enough is enough and I am demanding that you help me. I started doing my own research, I started bringing my own research to the doctors. They were quite dismissive, I had some scans and things, and this continued to go on for some years afterwards. During that time, my other joints started to join in. My hips were getting worse, my shoulders, my wrists, just pretty much all my joints in general started to join in. I would get a lot of pain. I realised that I'd actually been getting arm pain, which was probably coming from my shoulder for quite a while, but I hadn't kind of realised where it was coming from, and I didn't get it that often, so I hadn't really noticed, and then it became more often, more regular. When I was 24, I injured my hip by sitting down on my bed. It felt like it was kind of out of place, which I was kind of used to that feeling. I didn't really know what that feeling was at the time, but it kind of felt like it was out of place, and normally I would just kind of manipulate my hip and it would go back. It would hurt, but it would be better, and I just couldn't manipulate it to get it to feel better. And over the course of about a week, it got a lot worse until the point when I could no longer walk and I had to use a wheelchair a lot. I was on crutches, and ever since then I have been using a walking aid most days to get around. When I was 25, I was finally diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. Now, I had been pretty convinced for some time by that point that that's what I had. I had taken my research to the doctors and asked them about it, and because there's no test to determine whether or not you have it, they were quite dismissive. They said there were lots of other things that we could test for, even though there really weren't. There wasn't anything that we could test for anymore. And I kind of brought it in and said, look, I have all of these symptoms. I definitely am hypermobile, so I think that I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And anyway, it ended up being that I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. That meant that I had waited 8 years after my problems had really started to get diagnosed. During those 8 years, I had been seeing doctors, rheumatologists, an orthopaedic surgeon. I'd had lots of tests and my pain had continued to get worse. More of my joints became affected. 8 years is a long time to wait for a diagnosis. And when the diagnosis finally came, I was pleased that I'd found the answer. But the problem is, there isn't a cure for this. There is hardly any treatment. Really, it is all about looking after yourself, pacing yourself, doing maybe some physiotherapy and taking painkillers. The doctors really couldn't figure out what was going on with my hip. I had quite a few different tests and things, and then my orthopaedic surgeon said that really it was hip instability. It was part of having Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and he didn't really know what to do with me anymore. It's not a very well understood condition, and so I think that's one of the main reasons that doctors can't really help you. When I was diagnosed by a rheumatologist, I was discharged the very same day from their service and wasn't going to see a rheumatologist anymore. I have since decided that I would like to go back to the rheumatologist, but I'm currently pregnant, so there's no point in doing it until I have had the baby, but at that point I will go back and ask to be seen by a rheumatologist and maybe someone who specialises in this condition a bit more. So my EDS affects me mostly with pain and mobility problems from having very loose and unstable joints. My joints subluxate, meaning that they partially dislocate a lot, and I have to try and manipulate them to get them back to where they should be, which sometimes they just kind of do it by themselves. Sometimes it feels almost impossible to do that and it takes a long time and it's very painful. After that happens, I often get pain in that area. I've probably done like some nerve damage or something like that, who knows. I have better days and bad days and really bad days. Some days the pain is so bad and so many joints are affected that I can't get out of bed. I am in a lot of pain and I really lose my independence on those days completely. I can't do anything. I have to be helped to walk to the bathroom because the pain is so bad. And that is really difficult. Having other chronic illnesses, which are also quite debilitating, means that those bad days are a lot more frequent than I would obviously like. I have days when I can barely walk. I have days when it hurts too much to use my arms. I experience pain every day, but it does fluctuate, which means that I do get days that are a lot better and I can do more things, but it also means that I can't really plan for it. I never know, day to day, hour to hour even, how my joints are going to be and what pain I'm going to be in. I also have digestive problems, but I'll cover that more in another video. That is also kind of linked to having Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, although I don't know if the two conditions I have are linked. I'll have to look into that a little bit more, I guess. I get dizzy and lightheaded when I stand up. I just get lightheaded a lot, actually. And I bruise very easily. The pain can be very difficult to handle emotionally, mentally. I get very down when I'm in pain, of course, because it's difficult to function. You feel frustrated that your body can't do things that your mind wants to do. And just being in pain every day will make you feel depressed. I don't want this to be a really sad or depressing video, but I think it's really important that I am as honest as possible because other people have this condition and having a disability or a chronic illness can feel very isolating, especially when you don't know anyone else who has it. I'm trying to use this platform not only to reach out to other people who have this condition, but also to educate people who have either never heard of it or want to know more about it. When someone has an invisible illness, like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it can be very easy for other people to not understand it or think that it's not as bad as people are making out, because you only get to see people on their good days. You don't get to see people when they are lying in bed in so much pain they cannot move all day. So I think it's very easy for people to be unaware of how these kind of conditions really affect people, and so I hope that this video has been helpful in bringing some of that to light. If you have recently been diagnosed with EDS, I don't want you to think that this is the end and you can't do things that you want to do. It just means that you have to start doing things in a slightly different way. And although I've been struggling with this condition for a long time, and although I've had my diagnosis for a couple of years now, I am still trying to figure things out, quite honestly. I think it's kind of this learning journey, and if more people share their experiences, then it might get a lot easier for all of us to connect and work out how we kind of navigate through this condition. If you found this video helpful, educational, informative, please do give it a like, as it really helps out the channel. It also lets me know that people who are watching this channel are interested in chronic illness, so that I can make more videos like this. I have several other chronic illnesses, and I think it would be good to make videos on each of those as well. If you have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, whether it's hypermobility type or not, do let me know in the comments below what your experiences have been like. Did you have to wait a long time for a diagnosis? Do you have any tips for people who have EDS and how you deal with your condition? Finally, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.